What's up, everybody? Billtendo here for the arcade cabinet. We're going to do another speed run today. I have my buddy Jared on with me, and we're going to discuss fighting games, the evolution of fighting games, and where we think they're going, and what we love about fighting games. So, Jared, what is your favorite fighting game?
Guilty Gear. Got to be Guilty Gear.
You know, it's funny you mentioned Guilty Gear. So before we started recording, I was like, "Don't say anything. I'd rather say it on camera." I have a friend out in Los Angeles that I trade games with. We just mail each other stuff all the time, and he told me he was a big fan of Guilty Gear. I had a couple Guilty Gear PS2 games. And I'm like, oh, I don't ever even play these. And I, stuck them in a box and mailed them to him. And, he mailed me some stuff. 2 days after that, my sons are like, Dad, where are the Guilty Gear games, man? We're trying to play them. Can't find them. And I'm like, I kind of traded them. And they're like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, I didn't think anybody played them. So, yeah, they're a little salty about Guilty Gear right now because this just happened recently. What is it that you enjoy about the Guilty Gear franchise?
Oh, I was a Street Fighter fan forever, and I never thought I'd say it, but I finally found a game that was as good, if not better, than Street Fighter. And Guilty Gear it's got the soundtrack, it's got the animation, all of the character animations and the contact points and the super moves. They all have this immaculate detail, and it doesn't slow the game down. And every character has their own unique style, and ultimately, it's the storyline. It seems like the video game was built like the anime came first and then they made a video game out of it, but they don't have an anime, but it looks like an anime. There's all this backstory and Street Fighter had that too, but this one's kind of weird.
Yeah, but
It's like non-standard.
right. I feel like that is something that really lacks in fighting games. Probably my favorite fighting game franchise of all time probably be Mortal Kombat, especially the early games had a very big impact on me. But I feel like story and actual plot has always been missing. Now, Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter had plot, but they had a pasted on plot. Each character had a backstory, and it was like a couple paragraphs. And then as the years went on, they added to it a little bit and they intertwined the characters more and more. But I never felt like it was a cohesive story like you're talking about with Guilty Gear.
Yeah, they did. I don't know. There's a couple of franchises that succeeded in telling the story, and then there's a couple that just give you enough to keep you entertained for now.
Mm-hmm.
Darkstalkers. That was another series that I kind of ventured into.
I enjoyed that on the PSP.
And then I started exploring Tekken. Tekken and Soul Calibur are probably like my 3D favorite fighting games.
I'm gonna give one thumbs down, one thumbs up because Tekken. I don't like Tekken, man. It's a button masher. If you play with technique like you and I do, we got our combos down. We coming in there with skill. You can get beaten by somebody that just comes in and button mashes. You have to play another technique fighter to actually be able to win. But if you play a button masher, there's a good chance you're going to lose. That's why I was never a fan of the Tekken series.
There's a special place in my heart for button mashers. I absolutely hate Super Smash Brothers because it's a button masher. But with Tekken, I'm a sucker for like huge guys, like the biggest characters, and King, Soul King. Those are two big guys. Same reason I like Gold Lightan from Tatsunoko versus Capcom on the Wii.
Uh-huh.
There's this giant robot that takes up like 2/3 of the screen. Like, how do you fight that? Like that you have to button mash with that guy. You can get some combos out of him, but he's just a brutal dude. He just punches and kicks, and you just gotta fight a wall basically.
Are we going to count Mike Tyson's Punch Out as a fighting game, or are boxing games a separate thing?
Well, I mean, if you talk about fighting games, then you have to include Ninja Turtles and the Simpsons game because those are fighting. That's like Streets of Rage.
Right. Well, Streets of Rage is a
maybe
beat 'em up.
Contra. Maybe Contra. No, you're right.
Yeah, I guess if we're talking about fighting games, we're talking about a 1v1 or 1v CPU type fighting game as opposed to series. Or I think boxing games are kind of a different thing, just like wrestling games are a different thing. I wouldn't put wrestling games in with sports games, and I wouldn't put them in with fighting games. Now, I definitely enjoy wrestling games. WCW NWO Revenge for the Nintendo 64 is my favorite wrestling game. A lot of people don't agree with me. THQ was banging them out on all cylinders back then. You know, they were making the WCW and the WWF games for Nintendo 64. But Revenge is where it's at for me.
Well, that made me think. It also depends on where you are regionally, because there's only some games that were released here in America. There's only some games that were available in Europe. There's only some games that were available in Japan. Like I had an anime phase for a while, and I started picking up on these things. Like, oh, they show ads for this fighting game that is the anime you're watching, and you're like, oh, I could play it too. All right, cool. And so through that and modding PS1s for multi-region chips and stuff, you start collecting, what you tune into.
So I'm gonna throw this at you and tell me how you feel about this one. I have two PlayStation 3s. I have the launch model backwards compatible, which obviously has gone through the whole thermal paste issue. So it's been sitting on the shelf waiting to be fixed for a while. My buddy owns a computer shop and he keeps telling me, bring it, I can fix it, no problem. And my other is a launch model fat PS3, which stopped working unexpectedly the other day. So
Oh,
I'm looking at the backwards compatible, and I call my friend, and I'm like, I'm gonna bring this down to your shop to have it repaired. And he's like, okay. And I told him it was backwards compatible, and he's like, fantastic. So I don't know why. I googled the serial number on this thing. I googled the model number, and it didn't come up right away because it was the date sample on it is 6 months pre-launch, not 2 months like every other backwards compatible. Now tell me how you feel about this. After I did a little bit of research, it was a developer debug unit that is not region locked. All 10,000 PS1, 2, and 3 games can be played on it from
uh,
around the world.
that's like the diamond in the rough, man.
It is. Dude, I was like, there's no way. Like, how? You know, I went through. It was such a nightmare to get this thing because, like 7 years ago, my twin sons told me we used to have one at launch, and then some things happened and we didn't have it anymore. And so for Christmas, they were like, Dad, we want a PS3 that's backwards compatible so we can play PS2 games that we have. And I said, okay, no problem. So um, I went to the Devil's Asshole. I went to GameStop and I ordered a backwards compatible PS3 uh, 3 months before Christmas. And twice they called me to tell me it was in. Twice I went in and it was not a backwards compatible PS3. So I didn't leave the store with it, and then I ended up getting it a month after Christmas. So they got their Christmas gift a month after Christmas because of GameStop. And it turns out that GameStop sold me a developer debug for, whatever it was. It was like $250 or something, $200. So
Man,
can't
that's a
really
good
beat
find.
that
That's a
one.
you scored so big on that.
Yeah, no, I was like, man, I hate GameStop so much, but I love them so much right now. Like, I know people that have sold them reproduction cartridges for trade-in value. That they paid $3 to have it shipped out of China and traded in for a $10 value at GameStop just to kind of stick it to them. And I never intentionally tried to stick it to them, but I did on this one. They stuck it to themselves.
I I've gone out of my way for many years to stick it to them. We don't need to describe that. And I might
Right.
add that it's okay for this to happen this one time and be cool about it, and still hate GameStop and everything they stand for.
Right, right, absolutely. No, I'm no fan. I actually have a friend. He has a whole process of sticking it to GameStop, At this point, he's like, I'm just riding it out, man. They're going to be closed for good in 6 months, so get what you can. It's a sinking ship. I'm like, I don't need to do it, but I'll laugh because you're doing it. Whatever.
I've
All
gotten
right,
many
Jared.
many free consoles from them.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, there's ways around their systems. There really are. Um, I have personal issues with. I definitely have issues with their business ethics because their whole business model is set up to rip off kids and parents and grandparents that don't know any better, and I have an issue with that. So, and the fact that my kids, I didn't realize at the time because I was not a game stopper. I didn't really go in the store. Uh, my sons would get me to take them there a lot when they were young. And, yeah, 10, 11 years old, 12 years old, whatever. We started taking them there. And they would go in with like a bunch of games and trade them all in and come back out with like 2 or 3 games. And I'm like, dude, if you guys keep doing this, you're not going to have any games left. It's going to get to the point where you only have one game. Like they're not giving you what your games are worth. And so I started refusing to even take them there. And so that's why I feel a little bit personally attacked because my sons got ripped off and I didn't realize what was going on until it was too late.
Yeah, no, we've all felt that. We've all felt the ripoff. You go in there to sell a GameCube, and they're like, "I'll give you $10," and you're like, "This is like $300 worth of accessories. What are you talking about? $10?"
Right. Yeah. No, I'm gonna go sell it on eBay or Macari, pal. See you.
Yeah.
Now,
Thanks for the offer.
that being said, I will walk into a GameStop every once in a while, and I'll hit clearance games. I'll nail them on clearance games. You got like 3 for $5 games. I'm gonna clean you out because I know that you probably paid about $1 each for these games. So you're barely recouping your money. You're not making millions in profit. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
it's when they trade in a game for $2 and put it back on the shelf for $30. That's the problem. You
yeah.
know.
I agree.
All right, so I'm gonna wrap us up right there, Jared. Um, I'm going to leave a link in the description for Billtendo and Arcade Cabinet t-shirts and links to our Instagram. And Jared, I don't know if there's any projects you're working on that you want to shout out or if you want to stay low key, that's up to you.
I think I'll stay low key.
All good, man. All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank everybody. Thanks everybody for joining us and we'll see you later.